Good Monday morning to you. It's a joy to be with you. And as I was thinking about our time together this year, I was thinking that at the beginning of every year, I've gotten into a pattern over the last 10 years of setting aside the first part of my year to really seek the Lord and listen to the Lord and discern what He's doing in this next year and where He's asking me to get involved with His flow. And it's kind of a first fruits offering. Romans 11:16 says this. It says, "For if the first fruit is holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root is holy, so are the branches." So I've operated this way in my life for a long time with my resources, with my day, that if I give the Lord the first part, then it governs the whole and it makes the rest holy. And so now I've adopted this for my year. And so in these first few weeks of the new year, as I've been praying and seeking the Lord, one of my good friends, Ken Edwards, my friend, mentor, ministry partner, told me a few years back that at the beginning of his year, he'll kind of ask the Lord if He has a word for him for the year. And I've done that the last few years, and that's been beautiful. And the Lord's given me a word, and I've definitely seen it come to pass through the year. But this year was different. This year I felt like the Lord gave me a phrase, which He's never done before, but thankfully we can't put God in a box. He can do things differently than He's done in the past. But I felt like it came from the story of Joseph. He's kind of had me living there for the past few months, just going back there over and over with some of the things that are happening in my own story. And many of you know Joseph was sold by his brothers only after they decided not to leave him to die in a cistern. They sold him to a band of Egyptians, and he was placed into a man named Potiphar's house. He was falsely accused. Then he was sent to prison. And for 13 years, he lived a heartbreaking existence because of the jealousy in the hearts of his brothers. Eventually, the Lord honored him and raised him to be the right hand of Pharaoh. And one day his brothers needed what he had, even though they didn't know he was his brother, the brother that they had sold to a group of Egyptians. And when Joseph finally comes face to face with his brothers, he was a man who had chosen two things. One, he was going to believe who God had called him to be, that God had called him to be a dreamer and to interpret dreams, and he had. And he also was not going to live with offense. So the Lord was able to trust him with this place and this season, and in this season his brothers now needed him. And when he finally revealed himself to his brothers, he knew they were going to be petrified, as any normal human would in that kind of situation. And he speaks these most powerful and healing words to them. It's from the book of Genesis, chapter 45, verse 6. And he says, "But don't be upset and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your life." And I felt like the Lord said that my phrase for this year was, "It was God." And that in no matter the things or situations or events or happenings that may transpire, that I could know that He was sovereign in my life, and I can look in that situation, and even if man thought he had dictated all the steps, I can say, no, it was God. No, I do realize that there are seasons in our life when we could say that phrase very differently. Almost as an accusation. It was God. God did this to me. God messed up this piece of my story. God doesn't love me because He allowed this and this and this and such and so and so. Or we can choose to believe that God works all things together for the good of them who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. And if we believe that, then even in the most painful, trying situations of our story, those words won't come out as an accusation at all, but they will come out as the faith and hope and confidence. It was God. Friends, when we love the Lord, we can trust that He is in every detail of our story. So I want to encourage you. It's a new year. set aside a week or a couple of weeks in this first part of it and ask the Lord if He has a word for you. And I am confident that He will give you a word for this new year that will lead you into what He is doing so you can become a part of it.